I wanted to write that in Italian. So the first thing I did was making a list of Italian color names that seemed interesting to me. And one of the names was Nerissimo. So when I showed that to Theo, Theo pointed out Nerissimo and said, "That's good, Nerissimo." And so I underlined it. Okay, Nerissimo is a good idea. And originally the album was meant to be called Christian e Mauro. Yeah? But in the end, when we finished the album, ghosts. When we finished the album, then it just didn't make any sense anymore to call it Christian and Mauro. So we did the classical thing and called the album after one of the titles on the album, and that is Nerissimo. But as you can see, I mean, I don't wear black. He doesn't wear black. We really don't have anything to do with the whole darkness kind of thing. We're colorful people. We're happy people. We're not depressed. The last album, Still Smiling, was a black and white photo. It was a black and white photo that was meant to look like it is from the beginning of photography. And so I thought it would not be a good idea to go black and white again. So I originally thought we should ask a painter to do a double portrait of us. And there was a lot of risk that this would probably go wrong, that probably wouldn't look good. So I think you were eating a risotto con funghi, and I was eating some pasta in an Italian restaurant in Berlin called Muret La Barba, and suddenly it made click. The ambassadors, Holbein, the ambassadors. That really fits it, and so we got a set designer to build the set and restaged that famous painting.
This is the place where I usually start working. It's my studio, and I begin working on ideas. It's just a fake. It's a photo. It's a 3D image, and then I begin here. But I don't like to work alone, even though technology allows me to send files and work by that. But I really prefer to spend time with Blix in the same room in front of a microphone. That's what we usually do until the final stage of the recording. Mixing, mastering is something that you stay there and you spend time together working on it. I still believe very much in the possibility to make something happen in front of a microphone. And you were talking about objects before, and objects has a lot to do with creating sounds and music. So you need to make it happen, and especially in the studio in Berlin, which is the Neubauten studio, they have a lot of objects. There's kind of a deposit of objects, which is quite interesting. And my colleague has access to that. They allow him to use them. So that's what we do.
Well, that happened at this table over here. Actually, it happened at a couple of different tables. Most of the things that come up happen at tables, because I sat down for a while. I sat down under headphones in a hotel in Berlin. I always went to that hotel, to the bar of that hotel, sat down under the headphones and started writing, listening to the material over and over again. And because Ulge was taken from two different pieces of music and they had been chopped together, I remember very clearly when once we started again working in Berlin, I listened to all the material we had, and I could figure out, this is that, and this is that. And when Radici d'Aria, which was one of the yeah, and it's actually my wife. You can cut it off. Or last time I did an interview, Wim Wenders called, but Radici d'Aria was one of the two pieces, and I listened to the chopped piece together, and I could not figure out what this is all about. I could not figure out what the story is in this one. I could figure out with other pieces, it goes from there to there, and okay, I can figure out what this could be about, but because I don't write lyrics, I write lyrics on music. So there was the music, I couldn't figure out what it is, so I decided in this hotel to write the story. So I wrote the story, and when I was here, I sang the arias that are in there. It's like the arias are in a language that you don't speak, and then there's a narrator that tells you what this opera is about, because I've written the story. And currently we're working on Ulge's Return, the son of Ulge, and the son of Ulge's Revenge.
So 3 more episodes. Yes, there are instruments we didn't use on the previous album.
Bass clarinet.
Bass clarinet, for instance,
bass clarinet.
which is kind of my new cello. My new idea of cello is a bass clarinet at the moment, which I found very, very interesting. And there are other instruments. We have a funny story about a celesta, because there's a piece called Anime. That's the celesta down there. This celesta
comes from La Fenice.
Il Teatro La Fenice di Venezia. Yes, because they had this huge amount of instruments they wanted to sell.
It went the other way around. I was sitting here and said, look, at the end of that piece, it would be really nice to have a celesta.
And we didn't have a celesta back then. And then I got this offer, but they were selling a lot of instruments like piano, organs, whatever, and the celesta. And I said, can I have just the celesta? But it was a huge amount of money for that. And they said no. Then I insisted, and finally I made an offer, and I got the celesta. Exactly the 2 days before I was leaving for Berlin, where we were about to finish the album. So Blixa sent me an idea for a melody with the piano, and then I replayed it with the celesta, and I brought the sounds to Berlin, and we mixed that on the very last minute, and it was a very great addition.
Absolutely luxurious thing. I think I don't know anyone privately that owns a celesta.
But me.
I had an eBay search warrant for the last 10 years, celesta. Nobody ever sells a celesta, you know. So when I sat here and said, it would be really great to have a celesta, I never thought that this becomes true.
I think it was 2008, probably. I'm not sure. Anyway, it was a theater piece called Injuria, where we work with Chiara Guidi from Societas, Raffaello Sanzio, and Alexander Balanescu, the violin player. We did that, and right after I was working on a soundtrack for a movie, and I remember that the movie was Una Vita Tranquilla. And the director plays such an awful song at the end of the movie, and I says, "You can't use this; it's really crap." And he didn't understood, and I really have to insist, like, this is ruining the movie. So let me try to make a song. So I did, and Blixa came to mind because I thought he would have been perfect there, and the song came out really well, and it ended up on the movie. And after we made that song, we decided to work together on an album of songs. I remember back then I went to Blixa's place in San Francisco. You were still living there when we recorded the piece. So I went there, and it came out quite quickly. So we did.
The main difference to the last tour, we just played in Den Haag, and this was the last show with the old set, so to speak. Now we're going to go on tour with a bass clarinetist, a string quartet, baritone guitar and bells, and the solo cello of Martina Bertoni, and bells and glockenspiel, and I sing and play baritone harmonica. So it has a little bit more spectrum as what we did before. Even so, I was always absolutely happy with how and what we played before, but it's probably going to be a little bit richer.